morning sky was still dark when Maya woke up to the familiar sound of her mom leaving for her first job of the day. She lay still for a moment, listening to the creaky door close and her mom's tired footsteps fading down the hall of their apartment building. This was their routine. Mom worked 2 jobs and Maya took care of herself most of the time. It wasn't ideal, but they made it work. Today was different, though. Today was Maya's first day at Westridge High after moving to this side of town. Their old landlord had raised the rent again, and they simply couldn't afford to stay. Now they lived in the Pinewood Apartments, a fancy name for a building with more problems than amenities. The heating worked about half the time, the water sometimes came out brown, and the walls were thin enough that Maya could hear Mr. Rivera's television blaring game shows next door all evening. Maya pushed herself out of bed and padded to their tiny bathroom. The mirror showed a girl with dark circles under her eyes and wild hair that never seemed to behave. She wasn't looking forward to being the new girl again. This would be her 3rd school in 4 years. Just 2 more years, she whispered to her reflection as she splashed cold water on her face. 2 more years and then maybe community college. It was the dream she held on to. Get an education, get a stable job, help mom. The clothes she laid out last night were the best she had. Jeans with no visible patches, a simple blue sweater she'd found at the thrift store that still had its original tags, and her only pair of sneakers cleaned as best she could. Maya had learned long ago that first impressions mattered, especially when you didn't have much. As she got ready, Maya glanced at the battered violin case tucked in the corner of her room. It was her most precious possession, her grandmother's violin. Grandma Lily had played in an orchestra back in her home country before coming to America. She'd given Maya the violin just months before she passed away when Maya was only 8. Music speaks when words fail, Grandma had told her, placing the worn case in her small hands. This violin has stories inside it. Now it's yours to add your own. Maya hadn't been able to afford lessons, of course, but she'd spent countless hours at the public library, using their computers to watch tutorials online. She practiced whenever Mom wasn't home, not wanting to bother her during her rare moments of rest. Sometimes she snuck into the abandoned warehouse 2 blocks over, where the acoustics were surprisingly good, and played until her fingers ached. No one at her new school would know about the violin. That was her private joy, her secret self. With a small sigh, Maya grabbed her backpack, a hand-me-down from the church donation box, and headed out. She had to walk to school since they lived too close for the bus but too far for comfort, especially in bad weather. Today was clear, though, the early autumn air crisp but not yet cold. As she walked, Maya mentally prepared herself for what was coming. New faces, new teachers, the same old questions. Where are you from? What does your dad do? She had her standard answers ready. She never mentioned that Dad had left when she was 4, or that sometimes they had to choose between electricity and dinner. Westridge High loomed ahead, an imposing brick building that served the entire district. Kids from all economic backgrounds attended, but it wasn't hard to tell who came from which part of town. As Maya approached, she saw groups of students hanging out front. Many arrived in cars, some driven by parents, others driving themselves in vehicles that probably cost more than her mom made in a year. Maya kept her head down, aiming for the main entrance. Just as she reached the steps, a sleek silver car pulled up, and out stepped a girl who looked like she'd walked off a magazine cover. Her clothes were clearly expensive, her hair perfectly styled, and she moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she belonged in the world. 2 other girls immediately flocked to her, and together the trio made their way toward the entrance, a path naturally clearing for them as other students moved aside. Maya accidentally caught the lead girl's eye, and for a brief moment, they looked at each other, one girl with everything, one with almost nothing. The girl's expression shifted from indifference to something else. Curiosity, maybe, or calculation. She whispered something to her friends who glanced at Maya and giggled. Maya quickly looked away and hurried inside. The school office was busy with last-minute schedule changes and new student registrations. Maya waited patiently until a harried secretary finally called her name. Maya Reyes, here's your schedule and a map of the school. Your locker number and combination are on this slip. First period starts in 15 minutes. Welcome to Westridge. The secretary had already turned to the next student before Maya could even say thank you. She studied her schedule, English, history, math, lunch, science, gym, and finally music appreciation. She hadn't selected that last one, but transfers often got whatever classes had space. Finding her locker took longer than expected, and by the time she located it, the hallways were crowded with students. Maya tried to blend in as she worked the combination, but she could feel curious glances coming her way. New faces were always noticed, especially in the first week of school. Is it sticking? These old lockers are the worst. Maya turned to find a boy about her age with kind eyes and a friendly smile. His clothes were simple but neat, and he didn't have that polished look that screamed money. I think I'm just not doing it right, Maya admitted. Trying again with the combination. Here, there's a trick, he demonstrated, lifting up slightly on the handle while turning the dial. The mechanism's worn out on most of these. The locker popped open. Thanks, Maya said with genuine gratitude. I'm Luis, you're new, right? Maya just moved here. Well, welcome to the jungle, Luis said with a small laugh. What's your first class? English with Donovan. Same here. Want to walk together? I can point out the important landmarks, like which water fountains actually work and which bathrooms to avoid at all costs. For the first time that morning, Maya felt her shoulders relax slightly. Maybe today wouldn't be so bad after all. That small hope lasted until third period. Maya had made it through English and history without incident. Luis was in both classes and had introduced her to a few of his friends, none of whom seemed to care that her clothes weren't name brand or that she lived in the bad part of town. But math class was different. As she entered the room, Maya immediately spotted the girl from the silver car sitting in the center of the classroom, holding court with her friends. The teacher directed Maya to a seat 2 rows behind them. Throughout the lesson, Maya could feel eyes on her. Occasionally, the girls would whisper and then glance back at her, not even trying to be subtle. Maya kept her focus on the teacher, taking careful notes. Math had always been her best subject, and she wasn't going to let some rich girls throw her off. When the bell rang for lunch, Maya gathered her things quickly, hoping to find Luis and his friends. But as she stood, the girl from the silver car approached, flanked by her 2 friends. Hi there, the girl said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I'm Heather. These are my friends Brittany and Zoe. I'm Maya, she replied cautiously. Love your sweater, Heather said, her eyes flicking over Maya's clothes. Very vintage. Brittany and Zoe tittered behind their hands. Thanks, Maya said flatly, sensing the mockery but choosing not to engage. So, where are you from? Heather asked, leaning against a nearby desk. We don't get many new students mid-semester. Just the other side of town, Maya answered vaguely. Excuse me, I need to get to lunch. Oh, we're heading there too, Heather said, falling into step beside her. You should sit with us. We can fill you in on everything you need to know about Westridge. Warning bells rang in Maya's head. This sudden friendliness felt off, but she couldn't see a polite way to decline. Before she could figure out what to do, they'd arrived at the cafeteria. Our table's over there. Heather pointed to a spot where several well-dressed students were already gathered. Do you buy lunch or bring it? I bring it, Maya said, patting her backpack where she'd packed a simple sandwich. Something flickered across Heather's face. Surprise? Perhaps, or satisfaction at having her assumptions confirmed. Well, come on then, she said, steering Maya toward their table. The lunch period that followed was a strange experience. On the surface, Heather and her friends were welcoming, asking Maya questions about herself and sharing gossip about the school. But underneath ran a current of something else, like they were studying her, looking for weaknesses. Maya answered their questions carefully, revealing as little as possible about her circumstances. As lunch ended, Heather suddenly asked, So, do you have any special talents, Maya? Any hidden skills? The question seemed innocent enough, but Maya felt herself tense up. Not really, she lied, thinking of the violin waiting at home. I'm pretty boring. Everyone's good at something, Heather pressed, exchanging glances with Brittany and Zoe. Sports? Art? Music? Maya shrugged. Just academics, I guess. I do okay in school. Well, Heather said, gathering her designer purse, there's the fall talent show coming up in a few weeks. The committee's still looking for acts. You should think about it. I don't think so, Maya said quickly. I'm not really a performer. Too bad, Heather said with a smile that didn't quite seem genuine. It's a great way to make a splash at a new school. As the bell rang and they headed to their next classes, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just dodged something. What she didn't notice was the look that passed between Heather and her friends, or hear Heather whisper, "She's perfect. Just give me time." Days passed and Maya settled into a routine at Westridge High. She'd made a few friends. Luis and his small group had welcomed her without questions or judgment. They ate lunch together, sometimes studied in the library after school, and slowly Maya began to feel less like an outsider. But Heather and her friends hadn't forgotten about her. They'd greet her in the hallways with syrupy smiles that never reached their eyes. Maya couldn't figure out their angle. Girls like Heather didn't usually bother with girls like her unless they wanted something. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after Maya started at Westridge, she was hurrying home. Mom had the evening shift off, a rare treat, and Maya wanted to make a special dinner. She was so focused on her plans that she almost didn't notice the silver car pulling alongside her. "Maya, need a ride?" She turned to see Heather leaning out the passenger window. Brittany was driving with Zoe in the back seat. "No thanks," Maya said. "I don't live far." "Come on," Heather insisted. "It's going to rain soon." She pointed at the dark clouds gathering overhead. "Besides, we want to talk to you about something." Maya hesitated. She didn't want to get caught in the rain, and her curiosity was piqued. What could these girls possibly want from her? "Okay," she finally agreed, climbing into the back seat next to Zoe. "Where do you live?" Brittany asked, looking at Maya through the rearview mirror. "Pinewood Apartments," Maya said, trying not to sound embarrassed. "On Elm Street." A look passed between the three friends that Maya couldn't quite read. "So," Heather said, turning in her seat to face Maya, "we've been thinking about the talent show." "What about it?" Maya asked cautiously. "Well, I'm on the organizing committee," Heather explained. "And we're really short on acts this year. Everyone's doing the same old stuff. Dance routines, bad singing, magic tricks." She rolled her eyes. "We need something different." Maya stayed quiet, not sure where this was going. "Then I remembered our conversation," Heather continued. "About whether you had any hidden talents." "I told you I don't," Maya said. "See, I don't believe that," Heather smiled. "Everyone's good at something. And I've been watching you in music appreciation class. The way you listen when Mr. Chen plays classical pieces. You understand music, don't you?" Maya felt a flutter of panic. Had she been that obvious? She thought she'd hidden her love for music better than that. "I just like listening to it," she said carefully. "Do you play any instruments?" Zoe asked, her voice sweet but her eyes calculating. Maya thought about lying but decided on a half-truth. "I used to mess around with the violin. Nothing serious." The three girls exchanged excited glances. "That's perfect," Heather exclaimed. "We don't have any string instruments in the show this year. You have to perform." "No way," Maya shook her head firmly. "I barely know how to play and I don't have time to practice." "But this would be so good for you," Brittany chimed in. "New girl makes a splash at the talent show? Everyone would know who you are." "I don't want everyone to know who I am," Maya said. "I'm fine flying under the radar." They pulled up in front of Pinewood Apartments. Maya reached for the door handle, ready to escape this uncomfortable conversation. "Wait," Heather said, her voice suddenly serious. "Look, I know we didn't get off to the best start, but I'm trying to do you a favor here. Being invisible at Westridge isn't a good thing. People will make up stories about you, or worse, just ignore you completely." Maya looked at her, trying to understand what Heather's angle was. "Why do you care?" Heather sighed. "Maybe I'm trying to be nice. Or maybe I just want a good talent show. Either way, think about it, okay? It could change things for you." "I'll think about it," Maya said, not meaning it at all. She thanked them for the ride and hurried inside before the rain started to fall. That evening, as she and her mom enjoyed the simple but special dinner Maya had prepared, her thoughts kept returning to the conversation in the car. There was something off about Heather's sudden interest in her musical abilities. "You're quiet tonight," her mom said, noticing Maya's distraction. "Everything okay at the new school?"
"Yeah," Maya said.
"Just thinking about something." Her mom reached across their small table and squeezed her hand. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" Maya smiled. Her mom worked so hard, was so tired all the time. The last thing she needed was teenage drama to worry about. "It's nothing important," Maya assured her. "Just school stuff. There's a talent show coming up." Her mom's face brightened. "Are you thinking of playing?" Maya shrugged. "I don't know. I'm not that good." "That's not true," her mom said firmly. I hear you practicing when you think I'm asleep. You've gotten so much better over the years. Your grandma would be so proud. Maya felt a lump in her throat. You think so? I know so, her mom said. But it's your decision. No pressure. Later that night, after her mom had gone to bed, Maya took out her grandmother's violin. The case was worn, the once black leather now gray in spots. Inside, the violin itself was still beautiful, old but well made, with a warm, rich tone that Maya had fallen in love with from the first note she'd drawn from it. She played quietly, using the mute she'd fashioned herself from a rubber eraser to dampen the sound. Her fingers moved over the strings with growing confidence as she lost herself in the music. When she finally stopped, she realized hours had passed. The talent show kept nagging at her thoughts. Part of her wanted to perform, to share the music that meant so much to her. But a stronger part was afraid of messing up, of being laughed at, of being even more of an outsider than she already was. The next day at school, Luis caught up with her before first period. Hey, is it true? He asked. Is what true? Maya asked, confused. That you're playing violin in the talent show? Luis said. Heather's telling everyone. Maya felt her stomach drop. What? I never agreed to that. Well, she's already put your name on the list, Luis said. She was making a big deal about it in homeroom, saying how she's discovered this amazing violinist that no one knows about. Maya leaned against her locker, trying to process this information. Why would she do that? I barely even know her. Luis looked uncomfortable. Look, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but Heather doesn't do anything unless there's something in it for her. And the rumor is… What? Maya pressed when he hesitated. The rumor is they're setting you up, Luis said quietly. They do this sometimes. Find someone they think is an easy target and trick them into embarrassing themselves publicly. The pieces suddenly clicked into place. The sudden interest, the fake friendliness, the pressure to perform. Anger flared inside Maya, hot and fierce. They think I'll make a fool of myself, she said flatly. Luis nodded. I'm sorry. I thought you should know. Thanks, Maya said, her mind racing. I appreciate it. Throughout the day, Maya noticed people looking at her differently, whispering as she passed. By lunchtime, the whole school seemed to know about her upcoming performance. Heather made a point of coming to Maya's table, acting excited and supportive. Everyone's so looking forward to hearing you play, she gushed. I told Mr. Chen, and he's thrilled to have a violinist in the show. Maya looked at her, seeing through the fake enthusiasm to the cruel prank beneath. She had two choices: back out and be known as the scared girl who couldn't handle the spotlight, or go through with it and potentially humiliate herself. Or there was a third option, one that made her heart race with both fear and excitement. What piece should I play? Maya asked, making her decision in that moment. Heather looked surprised that Maya was going along with it. Oh, something classical? That's what violinists play, right? Sure, Maya said with a small smile. Classical. I think I know just the piece. After school, instead of going straight home, Maya took a detour to the community music center that she passed every day. She'd never had the courage to go inside before, always feeling like she didn't belong in a place for real musicians. But today was different. The building was old but well-maintained, with posters of orchestras and soloists in the windows. Inside, she heard the sounds of various instruments being practiced in different rooms. At the front desk sat an older man with kind eyes and silver hair. Can I help you? He asked. I hope so, Maya said, taking a deep breath. I need some help preparing for a performance. The man smiled. Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Mr. Thompson, the director here. What instrument do you play? Violin, Maya said. But I've never had formal lessons. I taught myself. His eyebrows rose with interest. Self-taught? That's impressive. What are you preparing for? A school talent show, Maya explained. I want to play something that will surprise people. I see, Mr. Thompson said, his eyes twinkling as if he understood more than she was saying. And do you have a particular piece in mind? Maya nodded. Montes Chardas. But I've only learned the first part. The fast sections are too difficult. Mr. Thompson's eyes widened. That's an ambitious choice for someone without formal training. Would you mind playing a bit for me, just so I can see where you are? Maya hesitated, then nodded. She took out her grandmother's violin from its case, feeling nervous but determined. Positioning it under her chin, she began to play the haunting opening melody of Chardas. She closed her eyes, letting the music flow through her as she'd done countless times alone in her room or the empty warehouse. When she finished the slow introduction, she lowered the violin and opened her eyes. Mr. Thompson was staring at her with an expression of astonishment. "Young lady," he said slowly, "who did you say taught you to play like that?" "Nobody," Maya replied. "I mean, I watched videos online and I practiced a lot." "You have a natural gift," he said. "Raw talent like yours is rare. But you're right about the technical sections of Sardas. They require skills you haven't developed yet." He paused, thinking. "However, if you're willing to put in some serious work before your show, I might be able to help you." Hope bloomed in Maya's chest. "Really? I don't have money for lessons, but I could maybe do work around here to pay." Mr. Thompson waved away her concerns. "We have a scholarship program for promising students. Let's call this an audition which you've just passed with flying colors." He smiled warmly. "When is this talent show?" 3 weeks from Friday," Maya said. "Not much time," Mr. Thompson mused. "But if you can come here every day after school and practice several hours each night at home, we might just pull this off." He extended his hand. "What do you say? Ready to show those schoolmates of yours what real music sounds like?" Maya took his hand, a new determination filling her. "Yes," she said firmly. "I'm ready." The next 3 weeks became the busiest of Maya's life. Every day after school, she hurried to the community music center where Mr. Thompson waited, ready to guide her through the challenging parts of Chardas. The piece began with a slow, haunting melody that Maya already played beautifully, but then exploded into fast, technically demanding sections that required skills she was still developing. Faster fingers. "Lighter bow," Mr. Thompson would say, demonstrating the quick, precise movements needed for the rapid passages. "Feel the rhythm in your body, not just your mind." Maya practiced until her fingertips were sore and calloused. She practiced when she should have been sleeping. She practiced in the warehouse on weekends, the empty space filling with music that grew more confident each day. Her mother noticed the change in her practice routine but didn't question it, just smiled knowingly when Maya said she was preparing a special piece. They had an unspoken agreement not to discuss the talent show. Maya didn't want her mom to worry about her, and she wasn't sure she could explain the complicated mix of fear, determination, and hope that drove her. At school, Heather and her friends continued their act, checking in with Maya about her performance with barely concealed smirks. "So what will you be playing for us?" Heather asked one day at lunch, sliding into the seat across from Maya uninvited. "Something simple, I hope. Beginners should start with the basics." "You'll see," Maya replied, keeping her face neutral while her stomach twisted with nerves. She'd told no one about her lessons with Mr. Thompson or the hours of practice she was putting in. Let them think she was walking into their trap. Luis and his friends had tried to warn her again about Heather's intentions. "You don't have to go through with this," Luis told her privately. "Nobody would blame you for backing out." "I'm not backing out," Maya said firmly. "I'm going to play." Luis looked at her curiously. "You're not worried?" Maya gave him a small smile. "I'm terrified. But sometimes you have to face your fears, right?" As the days passed, Maya noticed a change in herself that went beyond her improving violin skills. There was a new confidence in her walk, a steadiness in her gaze when she faced Heather and her friends. Even in her other classes, she found herself speaking up more, participating in discussions where before she might have stayed silent. 10 days before the talent show, Mr. Chen, the music teacher at school, stopped her after music appreciation class. "Maya, a moment, please." She approached his desk nervously. Had he heard about the prank? Was he going to try to talk her out of performing? "Heather tells me you'll be playing violin at the talent show," he said, studying her with kind but perceptive eyes. "Yes," Maya nodded. "I am. Would you like to practice in the auditorium sometime? To get a feel for the acoustics?" Maya hesitated. She hadn't thought about that aspect. How different it would be to play in a large space with an audience instead of her room or the warehouse. "That would be helpful," she admitted. "Thank you. How about tomorrow after school? The stage will be free around 4. "I can't tomorrow," Maya said quickly. "I have something after school." She wasn't ready to tell anyone about her lessons with Mr. Thompson. Mr. Chen nodded understandingly. "Thursday then?" 4 o'clock? Thursday works. Thank you. When Thursday came, Maya arrived at the auditorium with her violin case clutched tightly in her hand. The space was empty except for Mr. Chen, who sat at the piano on stage. Come up, he called. Let's hear what you're preparing. Maya walked slowly to the stage, her footsteps echoing in the empty auditorium. She'd never performed on a real stage before. Standing in the center, looking out at all the empty seats that would soon be filled with students eager to see her fail, she felt a momentary panic. Nervous? Mr. Chen asked gently. A little, Maya admitted. That's normal. Even professional musicians get stage fright. The trick is to use that energy. Let it fuel your performance instead of hindering it. He gestured to her violin case. Shall we? Maya took out her grandmother's violin, positioned it under her chin, and began to play the opening notes of Stardust. The slow, mournful beginning filled the auditorium with a haunting sound that surprised even her. The acoustics were incredible, making her simple violin sound fuller and richer than she'd ever heard it. She played only the first minute or so, the part she felt most confident with, before stopping. Mr. Chen was silent for a long moment. How long have you been playing, Maya? He finally asked. Since I was 8, she said, but I've never had formal lessons until recently. Recently? His eyebrows rose in surprise. Maya hesitated, then decided to trust him. I've been getting help from Mr. Thompson at the Community Music Center. For the talent show. Understanding dawned on Mr. Chen's face. Ah, David Thompson. He's an excellent teacher. He paused. And a former concert violinist with the National Symphony. Maya's eyes widened. Mr. Thompson had never mentioned that. You have natural talent, Mr. Chen continued. But more importantly, you have soul in your playing. That can't be taught. He looked at her thoughtfully. May I ask why you kept this hidden? You could have been in the orchestra here. Maya looked down at her violin, tracing a finger along its worn edge. I didn't think I was good enough. And we couldn't afford lessons or a decent instrument. Mr. Chen nodded slowly. I understand. But talent finds a way. He smiled at her. The talent show is next Friday. Will you be ready? I'm working on it, Maya said. The fast parts are hard. I imagine they are. Stardust is a challenging piece for any violinist. He held up a hand at Maya's surprised look. I recognized it immediately. Ambitious choice. Too ambitious? She asked worriedly. Not if you're willing to put in the work, Mr. Chen said, and something tells me you are. For the next week, Maya's life became an endless cycle of school, practice at the music center, homework, and more practice at home. Mr. Thompson pushed her harder than ever, focusing on the technical sections that still gave her trouble. Again, he would say, faster this time. Don't think about the notes, feel them. 3 days before the show, they had a breakthrough. Maya played through the entire piece, from the soulful beginning to the fiery, technically challenging conclusion, without a major mistake. Mr. Thompson sat back in his chair, a satisfied smile on his face. Now that, he said, is how you play Stardust. Maya lowered her violin, hardly believing what she'd just accomplished. I did it, she whispered. Yes, you did. And you'll do it again on Friday. Mr. Thompson's eyes twinkled. I think your schoolmates are in for quite a surprise. On the day before the talent show, Heather cornered Maya at her locker. Just checking you're still on for tomorrow, she said with a sweetness that didn't reach her eyes. No cold feet? I'll be there, Maya assured her. Great. Heather clapped her hands. I've made sure to tell everyone to come. You'll have a full house. As Heather walked away, Maya saw Luis approaching. Still going through with it? He asked quietly. Maya nodded. No turning back now. Well, I'll be there to cheer you on, Luis promised. No matter what happens. That night, Maya could barely sleep. She kept running through the piece in her mind, imagining herself on stage, feeling the weight of all those eyes on her. What if she messed up? What if her strings broke? What if she froze completely? When she finally drifted off, she dreamed of her grandmother, smiling and nodding as Maya played her violin. Music speaks when words fail, her grandmother said in the dream. Let your music speak for you. The morning of the talent show dawned clear and bright. Maya moved through her classes in a daze, barely hearing the teachers, her mind focused entirely on what lay ahead. Heather and her friends kept giving her significant looks, occasionally making violin-playing gestures when teachers weren't looking. The word had spread. Everyone knew the new poor girl was going to play violin at the talent show. Probably doesn't even know which end of the bow to hold, Maya overheard someone say with a laugh as she passed in the hallway. Let them think that, she told herself. Just a few more hours. After school, performers were given time to prepare before the evening show. Maya found a quiet corner of the music room to warm up, running through scales and difficult passages from Chardas. Mr. Chen came in while she was practicing. Sounds good, he said. How are you feeling? Scared, Maya admitted. But ready, I think. Remember to breathe, he advised. And know that whatever happens out there, you've already accomplished something remarkable. As the hours ticked by, the auditorium began to fill with students, teachers, and some parents. Backstage, Maya peered through the curtain and felt her heart race at the size of the crowd. It seemed like the entire school had shown up. A hand touched her shoulder, making her jump. It was Mr. Thompson, dressed in a neat suit looking nothing like the casual teacher she knew from the music center. What are you doing here? She gasped. Did you think I'd miss your debut? He asked with a warm smile. Besides, I thought you might want some moral support. Tears pricked at Maya's eyes. Thank you, she whispered. You're going to be magnificent, Mr. Thompson said confidently. Just remember everything we worked on. And most importantly, play from your heart. The talent show began. Maya was scheduled near the end. Heather's doing, no doubt, to build up the anticipation. She watched as singers, dancers, and a comedy duo took their turns on stage. Some were quite good, others less so, but all received polite applause from the audience. From her spot in the wings, Maya could see Heather and her friends in the front row, phones ready to capture what they expected would be a humiliating performance. The sight made her stomach clench, but also strengthened her resolve. Finally, it was her turn. The MC, a senior boy with a booming voice, called out, Next up, we have a special treat, a violin performance by Maya Reyes. As Maya walked onto the stage, violin in hand, she heard the murmurs and a few snickers from the audience. She took her position in the center of the stage, raised her grandmother's violin to her chin, and took a deep breath. In that moment, everything else fell away. The audience, the prank, the fear. There was only Maya and the music waiting to be played. She drew her bow across the strings, and the first haunting notes of Chardas filled the auditorium. The first notes of Chardas floated through the auditorium, soft and haunting. Maya's eyes closed as she surrendered to the music, her bow moving across the strings with gentle precision. The slow, melancholy opening melody filled the space with an aching beauty that caught the audience by surprise. In the front row, Heather's smirk began to fade. This wasn't the awkward scratching she had expected. The girl on stage was playing with confidence, drawing rich tones from her old violin that seemed impossible. Maya felt the music flow through her, each note connecting her to her grandmother, to the countless hours of practice, to every struggle and triumph of her young life. The slow introduction was her comfort zone, the part she'd played 1,000 times before. As she neared the end of this section, she opened her eyes briefly, catching sight of Heather's confused expression. Then came the moment of truth, the transition to the fast, technically challenging section. Maya took a breath, remembering Mr. Thompson's words. Don't think about the notes. Feel them. Her fingers began to fly across the strings, her bow moving with lightning speed as the tempo suddenly doubled, then tripled. The melody transformed from sorrowful to fiery and passionate, notes tumbling over each other in a dizzying display of technical skill. A collective gasp rose from the audience. No one had expected this, least of all Heather and her friends, whose expressions had transformed from smug anticipation to open-mouthed shock. Maya was no longer aware of the audience. The hours of practice had paid off. Her fingers knew exactly where to go. Her bow arm maintained perfect control. When she reached the most difficult passage, the one that had given her trouble for weeks, she nailed it perfectly, the notes crisp and clear. In the wings, Mr. Thompson watched with pride, nodding in approval. Mr. Chen, seated near the back of the auditorium, leaned forward in his seat, his eyes wide with amazement. Luis, sitting midway back, couldn't help the grin spreading across his face as he watched the reactions around him. Students who had come expecting to laugh were instead captivated, some recording on their phones, others simply staring in disbelief. As Maya launched into the final section, the tempo increased yet again. Her bow flew across the strings with incredible speed, her fingers a blur on the fingerboard. The music built to a thrilling climax, and with a final flourish, she drew out the last triumphant note, her bow raised high. For a moment, complete silence filled the auditorium. Maya stood there, breathing hard, violin still raised, uncertain what would happen next. Then the applause began, scattered at first, then building to a thunderous roar. Students were standing, cheering, some whistling. Teachers clapped enthusiastically, exchanging amazed glances. Even the principal, a normally stoic woman, was on her feet, applauding with genuine enthusiasm. Maya lowered her violin, her hands trembling now that the performance was over. She looked out at the sea of faces, all focused on her with new eyes. She wasn't the poor new girl anymore. She was something else entirely. Her gaze found Heather in the front row. The popular girl sat frozen, her planned recording forgotten, her phone limp in her hand. Next to her, Brittany and Zoe looked equally stunned. Maya gave a small bow and turned to leave the stage. As she did, the applause grew even louder. The MC came back on stage, clearly flustered. "Wow," he said into the microphone, having to shout to be heard over the continuing applause. "Just wow. Maya Reyes, everyone." Backstage, Mr. Thompson was waiting, his eyes bright with pride. "Magnificent," he said, squeezing her shoulder. "Absolutely magnificent." Maya's hands were still shaking. "I did it," she whispered. "I really did it. You certainly did," Mr. Thompson agreed. "How does it feel?" Maya took a moment to check in with herself. The fear was gone, replaced by a warm glow of accomplishment and something else. A quiet confidence she'd never felt before. "It feels good," she said simply. "Really good." The rest of the talent show passed in a blur. Maya barely registered the final few acts or the announcement of winners, though she wasn't surprised when her name was called for first place. The trophy they handed her seemed almost beside the point. What mattered were the faces, the students and teachers who came up to her afterward, amazed and curious. Where had she learned to play like that? How long had she been studying? Did she perform professionally? Luis pushed through the crowd to reach her. "That was incredible," he exclaimed. "You never told me you could play like that." "I wasn't sure I could," Maya admitted with a small smile. "Well, you showed everyone," Luis said, nodding toward Heather and her friends who stood at a distance, talking among themselves and occasionally glancing Maya's way. I've never seen Heather speechless before. As the crowd in the auditorium began to thin, Mr. Chen approached, accompanied by a well-dressed couple Maya didn't recognize. "Maya," Mr. Chen said warmly, "that was an outstanding performance. I'd like you to meet Dr. and Mrs. Rivera from the State Music Academy." Maya's eyes widened. The State Music Academy was famous, a prestigious school for gifted young musicians. "Your performance was exceptional," Dr. Rivera said, extending his hand. "Especially for someone with limited formal training." "Mr. Thompson mentioned you might be here tonight," Mrs. Rivera added. "He speaks very highly of your natural ability." Maya shot a surprised look at Mr. Thompson, who stood nearby with a pleased expression. "We'd like to discuss the possibility of an audition," Dr. Rivera continued. "The Academy has a scholarship program for exceptional students like yourself." Maya couldn't believe what she was hearing. "A scholarship? To the Academy?" "Full scholarship," Mrs. Rivera clarified. "Based on what we heard tonight, I think you'd be an excellent candidate." Maya's mind raced. The State Music Academy was for serious musicians, those planning careers in music. She'd never even considered such a possibility for herself. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "You don't need to decide anything tonight," Dr. Rivera assured her. "Here's my card. Talk it over with your family and give us a call next week to set up a formal audition." As they walked away, Maya turned to Mr. Thompson. "Did you arrange this?" He smiled. "I merely mentioned to some old colleagues that there was a young violinist they might want to hear. The rest was all you, Maya." More people came to congratulate her, but Maya was beginning to feel overwhelmed by all the attention. She excused herself, saying she needed some air, and slipped out to the quiet hallway outside the auditorium. Leaning against the wall, violin case clutched to her chest, she tried to process everything that had happened. In the space of a few minutes, her life had potentially changed course completely. The State Music Academy, a full scholarship, a future she'd never dared to imagine. The door opened, and to Maya's surprise, Heather stepped out. Alone, without her usual entourage, she looked smaller somehow, less intimidating. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Maya waited for excuses, denials of the prank, or maybe even more hostility. Instead, Heather said quietly, "Where did you learn to play like that?" The question seemed genuine, without the usual edge to her voice. "My grandmother gave me her violin when I was 8, Maya replied. "After that, I just practiced a lot." Heather nodded slowly. "I've taken lessons since I was 5. Private tutors, summer camps, everything. I quit last year." She looked down at her designer shoes. "I was never half as good as what you just did in there." Maya didn't know how to respond to this unexpected vulnerability. "I know what we did was wrong," Heather continued. "Setting you up like that. It was cruel. Why did you do it?" Maya asked the question that had been bothering her for weeks. Heather shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "It's what we always do. Find someone who doesn't fit in and—" She trailed off, seemingly hearing how hollow it sounded. "That's a terrible reason," Maya said quietly. "I know," Heather admitted. "I guess I never thought about how it felt for the other person." She paused. "You made me cry, you know, when you were playing." "I don't even know why." Maya remembered what her grandmother had told her. "Music speaks when words fail." "Music can do that," she said. "It gets past all our defenses." Heather looked at her with new respect. "I really am sorry." "I believe you," Maya said. And strangely, she did. The girl standing before her seemed different from the calculating queen bee who had set up the prank. Music had changed something between them. Not enough to make them friends, perhaps, but enough to see each other more clearly. The door opened again, and Luis poked his head out. "Maya, your mom's here. She's looking for you." Maya's heart leapt. "My mom," she came. "Mr. Chen called her, apparently," Luis explained. "She's inside waiting." Maya turned back to Heather. "I should go," Heather nodded. "Congratulations, by the way, on the academy thing." "I overheard." "Thanks," Maya said. "It's just an audition, but—" "You'll get in," Heather said with certainty. "After what you did tonight, they'd be crazy not to take you." As Maya went back into the auditorium, she spotted her mother immediately. She stood near the stage, still in her work uniform, talking animatedly with Mr. Chen and Mr. Thompson. When she saw Maya, her face lit up with such pride and love that Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. "Maya," her mother called, rushing over to embrace her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Mr. Chen said you were incredible." "I wanted it to be a surprise," Maya explained, hugging her mother tightly. "And I wasn't sure I could pull it off." "My daughter, the violinist," her mother said, wiping away a tear. "Your grandmother would be so proud." "The academy representatives want me to audition for a scholarship," Maya told her, still hardly believing it herself. Her mother's eyes widened. "The State Music Academy? Maya, that's amazing." "It would mean changing schools," Maya said cautiously. "And a lot more practice, more commitment. If it's what you want, we'll make it work," her mother said firmly. "Whatever it takes." Looking around at the people who had supported her, Mr. Thompson with his patient teaching, Mr. Chen with his quiet encouragement, Luis with his steadfast friendship, even her mother who had worked so hard to give her opportunities, Maya felt a wave of gratitude. A prank meant to humiliate her had instead revealed her gift to the world. As she clutched her violin case containing her grandmother's precious instrument, Maya realized that sometimes life's cruelest moments could lead to unexpected blessings. The talent show was ending. People streaming out of the auditorium in excited groups, many still talking about the amazing violin performance. As Maya left with her mother and her new supporters, she noticed Heather watching from a distance. Their eyes met briefly, and Heather gave a small nod that contained both apology and respect. Maya nodded back, then turned away. The past was behind her. Ahead lay a future filled with music. Her music played on her terms, for all the world to hear. The weekend after the talent show passed in a whirlwind for Maya. By Saturday morning, someone had posted a video of her performance online, and it was spreading quickly. Her phone, usually quiet except for texts from her mom, kept buzzing with notifications from schoolmates she barely knew. "Have you seen this?" Luis texted, sending a link to her performance that already had thousands of views. "You're going viral." Maya could hardly believe it. She watched the video herself, seeing her performance through others' eyes for the first time. The girl on stage didn't look like the Maya she knew. the shy, careful girl who tried to blend into the background. This Maya stood tall, played with passion, and commanded attention. On Monday, returning to school felt like stepping into an alternate universe. People who had never spoken to her before smiled and waved. Teachers looked at her differently. Even the principal stopped her in the hallway to congratulate her again. "Your performance was extraordinary," he said. "Westridge is proud to have such talent among our students." Maya thanked him politely, still uncomfortable with all the attention but growing more accustomed to it. When she reached her locker, Luis was waiting. "The famous Maya Reyes," he teased gently. "How does it feel?" "Weird," she admitted. "Really weird. Better get used to it," Luis said. "Everyone's talking about you in the academy." "Is it true they offered you a scholarship?" "Just an audition," Maya corrected. "But yes, I'm going there this weekend." "That's incredible," Luis said, genuine happiness in his voice. "You deserve it." As they walked to class, Maya noticed Heather and her friends down the hall. The usual group dynamic seemed different. Heather wasn't holding court as she typically did, and there was a subdued quality to their interaction. When Heather noticed Maya, she gave a small nod of acknowledgement but didn't approach. Throughout the day, Maya found herself approached by various students, some curious, others admiring. A few even asking for advice about their own musical pursuits. By lunchtime, she was exhausted from the social interaction, more than she'd had in the previous month combined. Music appreciation class was the most surreal experience. Mr. Chen treated her with a new respect, even asking her opinion during a discussion about classical compositions. After class, he asked her to stay behind. "How are you holding up with all the attention?" he asked kindly. "It's overwhelming," Maya admitted. "Fame, even on a small scale, can be difficult to navigate." Mr. Chen nodded understandingly. "But I wanted to talk to you about your audition. Have you decided what piece you'll play?" Maya had been thinking about it constantly. "I was considering Sardas again since it went well at the talent show." "A safe choice," Mr. Chen agreed. "But the academy will be looking for range as well as technical skill. Perhaps something to balance Monty's showmanship with more emotional depth? Do you have a suggestion?" Maya asked. "Bach's Partita No. 2 in D minor, the Sarabande," Mr. Chen said. "It's less technically demanding than Sardas, but it requires great emotional maturity and musicality. The contrast would showcase your versatility." Maya had heard recordings of the piece but had never attempted to play it. "I only have a few days to prepare. I have the sheet music," Mr. Chen said, already moving to his filing cabinet. "And I'd be happy to work with you after school if Mr. Thompson isn't available." The generosity of the offer touched Maya deeply. A month ago, she wouldn't have believed that teachers would be going out of their way to help her like this. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "That would be amazing." The days before the audition flew by in a blur of practice. Mr. Thompson focused on refining her Sardas performance, while Mr. Chen helped her with the Bach during lunch breaks and after school. Maya's mother arranged to take Saturday morning off work so she could accompany her daughter to the academy. "No matter what happens," her mother told her the night before the audition, "I'm already so proud of you. You've worked so hard." Maya hugged her tightly. "Thanks, Mom, for everything." Saturday morning arrived clear and cool. Maya and her mother took the bus across town to the State Music Academy, an impressive building with classical columns and large windows. Inside, the hallways were lined with photographs of famous musicians who had studied there, and the sound of various instruments being practiced echoed from distant rooms. In the waiting area outside the audition room, other young musicians sat with their expensive instruments and professionally made music folders. Maya, with her grandmother's worn violin case and sheet music in a simple school folder, felt out of place. A boy with an expensive-looking cello eyed her curiously. "Which conservatory did you train at?" he asked. "I didn't," Maya replied honestly. "I'm mostly self-taught." The boy looked skeptical, but before he could respond, the door opened and a woman with a clipboard called Maya's name. "Good luck," her mother whispered, squeezing her hand. The audition room was larger than Maya had expected, with a small stage at one end and a panel of 5 judges seated at a table. Dr. Rivera, whom she recognized from the talent show, sat in the center. "Maya Reyes," he said warmly. "Welcome to the academy. Please tell us what you'll be performing for us today." Maya took a deep breath. "I'll be playing Vittorio Monti's Sardas," followed by the Sarabande from Bach's Partita No. 2 in D minor. The judges looked impressed at her ambitious selections. Maya positioned herself on the stage, took another steadying breath, and began to play. The Sardas went even better than at the talent show. Free from the nervousness of that night, Maya played with greater confidence and precision. When she finished the piece, the judges were nodding appreciatively. She transitioned to the Bach without pause. The Sarabande was entirely different, slow, contemplative, with an emotional depth that required her to dig deep inside herself. Maya thought of her grandmother, of the struggles her mother faced every day, of the journey that had brought her to this moment. She poured all of these feelings into the music, letting the simple, profound notes tell her story. When the final note faded, there was silence in the room. Then Dr. Rivera cleared his throat. "Thank you, Miss Reyes, that was quite moving." The judges conferred briefly in whispers. Then Dr. Rivera addressed her again. "Normally we would deliberate and inform candidates of our decision in a few days. However, in this case, the panel is in unanimous agreement." He smiled at her. "We would like to offer you a full scholarship to the Academy's Young Artist program, beginning next semester." Maya felt her heart skip. "Really? Really?" Dr. Rivera confirmed. "Your technical skills are impressive, especially given your limited formal training. But what truly sets you apart is your musicality, your ability to communicate emotion through your playing. That can't be taught." Maya couldn't hold back her smile. "Thank you. Thank you so much. There will be paperwork to complete, and we'll need to discuss scheduling and other details," another judge added. "But we're very excited to welcome you to our program." When Maya emerged from the audition room, her mother took one look at her face and knew. They hugged tightly, both of them crying tears of joy. "They offered me a full scholarship," Maya whispered. "I got in." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparations. There were forms to fill out, orientations to attend, and decisions to be made about her academic schedule. The Academy's program would allow her to continue her regular classes at Westridge in the mornings while attending specialized music instruction at the Academy in the afternoons. Word of her scholarship spread quickly at school. Mr. Chen beamed with pride whenever he saw her. Luis and his friends organized a small celebration for her. Even Heather approached her one day between classes. "I heard about the Academy," she said. "Congratulations." "Thank you," Maya replied, still finding their new dynamic strange but not unpleasant. "I wanted to give you something," Heather continued, holding out a small gift bag. "A sort of peace offering, I guess." Maya accepted it cautiously. Inside was a beautiful leather music folder with her initials embossed in the corner. "For your sheet music," Heather explained. "I noticed you carrying yours in a regular folder at the talent show." The thoughtfulness of the gift surprised Maya. "This is really nice. Thank you. You're going to be famous someday," Heather said with unexpected sincerity. "Maybe this is weird, but I'm kind of proud to say I knew you before." Maya didn't know how to respond to that, but she was saved by the bell ringing for the next class. As the semester progressed, Maya settled into her new routine. Mornings at Westridge, afternoons at the Academy, evenings practicing at home or sometimes at the Community Music Center, where Mr. Thompson continued to mentor her. It was exhausting but exhilarating. The Academy organized a winter recital where Maya would make her debut as an official student. This time her mother invited everyone from their apartment building. Mr. Chen and several teachers from Westridge attended. Luis came with a group of friends. Even Heather and some of her crowd showed up, sitting near the back but definitely present. As Maya took the stage that night, looking out at all the faces of people who had been part of her journey, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. The cruel prank that was meant to humiliate her had instead set her on a path she never could have imagined. Before she began to play, Maya spotted an empty seat in the front row that she had reserved specially. In her mind, she could almost see her grandmother sitting there, smiling with pride. "This is for you, Grandma," she whispered, too softly for anyone to hear. Then she raised her violin, not just her grandmother's instrument anymore, but truly her own, and began to play. The music soared through the concert hall, telling the story of a girl who had faced cruelty with courage and found her voice in the universal language of music. In that moment, Maya knew with certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, she had found her path. The violin that had once been her private solace was now her connection to the world, her voice, her future. And somewhere, she was sure, her grandmother was listening.